Have you been training your arms like crazy and just not seeing the results that you want? Well, I bet you've been training them wrong. Today's video, I'm going to break down exactly how to hit the biceps and the triceps, show you all the muscles underneath contributing to the movement, and teach you how to keep those unwanted muscles completely out. My name is Peter, and I'm a qualified and still practicing physiotherapist, seeing hundreds of people every week, helping them through their pain, and more importantly, prescribing exercise. So I think I know a thing or two about what's going on underneath the skin. This is part number 3 of the series of using technique to maximize your gains. If you've missed it before, we've done the chest and shoulders and we've done the back. Next to come is the legs. Before I can say go and do this exercise or that exercise, let's break down the structure of the arm. So starting at the top, we've got the shoulder. So the deltoid, mainly the front delt in this video. Then we go into the biceps. Now that has got 2 heads, and that is extremely important when it comes later on to choosing an exercise to target each of them. We've got our long head, which sits on the outside. Now they do join up at the bottom, but it sits on the outside, almost wraps around the back and attaches to the top of the socket part of the ball and socket joint of the shoulder. Then we've got the short head, which is on the inside, and that's for the width of the bicep. That runs up on the inside and attaches to this pointy bit that sticks out the front called the coracoid process. This plays a massive role in choosing your arm position to target the specific head. Then underneath the long head of the bicep, we've got our brachialis. Now this just flexes or bends the elbow. That's all it does, and it does a very good job at that. So it's always going to help the biceps out. Then we've got radiobrachialis, which sits just a bit lower in the forearm, which does a similar thing. And then we've got all the muscles in the forearm, which mainly contribute to wrist movement and finger movement. The thing when it comes to wrist movement is the bicep contributes to a wrist movement called supination. The reason is if you look at the long head of biceps, it runs from the outside and angles slightly inwards, and it attaches to the bone on the inside, standing in the anatomical position, which means when it shortens, it pulls that bone up slightly, supinating the wrist. Always think of that one as holding a bowl of soup in your hand, and you won't get supination and pronation mixed up. So if we go around to the back of the arm, we've got the triceps, aka the 3-pointer. Now that comprises of 3 heads, obviously triceps. We've got our long head, which runs from the olecranon, that knobbly bit where they all run from, all the way up and above the shoulder joint. This is the only one of the 3 heads that attaches above the shoulder joint. Remember this for later on. Then we've got the medial head, which is on the inside, and the lateral head, which is on the outside. They do that. All they do is straighten the arm. Sometimes the long head can be used for some shoulder extension, but it plays a minimal role in that action. So let's start with the guns. Now I'm sure you've seen bro in the gym curling like that, like an absolute clown, but hopefully if you've been watching any of my videos, that's not you. So the guns are easy. The biceps bend the elbow or flex the elbow. That's an obvious one, but they do 2 more things that people often leave out. They supinate the wrist, and they also flex the shoulder slightly. That is really important. So you often hear people say, oh no, don't let your elbows drift forward in a curl. Yes, that's correct at the beginning because we don't want momentum, but actually towards the end, if we want that peak biceps contraction, then we need to just bring the shoulder into slight flexion. And I'm not saying go crazy, it's a very minimal movement. The thing with the biceps is we can actually choose which head we are targeting. Now yes, they will both be at a stretch as we drift our arm behind the body. However, because the long head loops around the side and up the back, we can put that at a much greater stretch than the short head. Now the muscle under the most stretch is therefore under the most tension and therefore going to do most of the work. Right, so we're on the bench, we've got our elbow behind the body. Remember to keep that open chest, increase the stretch on it, just to take some of the tension off the short head, not because the stretch is a better range. And then we're curling up. Now that is fantastic, and you should feel the outside half of the arm lighting up. But as I said before, the angle of the long head helps more in supination than the short head. So therefore, we can actually put it in a bit more of a stretch by doing a hammer curl and supinating on the way up. Just make sure at halfway when your elbows bend 90 degrees, the weight is level. And then at the top, you can turn it out a little bit more, and you're controlling the movement. We're not just going up and throwing the weight down and swinging the elbow. The elbow stays still. We hammer the weight up, we curl, and we go slowly back down. That is the best way to target the long head. You can also use things like drag curls or Jeff Nippard's favorite, the Bayesian curl. Right, so before we go on to the short head, let's see which muscles we want out. Now, the brachialis, we cannot keep out as much as we try, but if you go heavy enough and you supinate the wrist, the biceps will do most of the work. The brachialis is really easy to train. You just do your hammer curls, so no supination, takes the stretch off. You can literally see the biceps in a lengthened position. There, watch, they shortened, lengthened, shortened. or even better, you can do your reverse grip curl. Both of those will hit the brachialis. Now the muscles we do not want working, there's two sets. The wrist flexors. Why is that? Because when we flex the wrist like that, we're creating momentum, taking the movement off. So if Jeff Cavalier had a really good tip, if you really struggle with this, curl with your wrists pointing downwards, right, like that. So wrists and extension, or if you lock them at dead level, keep them level. What we don't want to do is flick the weight up like that, because then you're just doing a glorified wrist curl and the tension is straight off the biceps. The other group of muscles we need out are the muscles that control the shoulder blade. Now I'll go into these muscles in detail in my back video, so if you don't know what they are, go check that video out. The reason is they create momentum and they can create a lot of it. So we want to curl nice and locked in, try not to move from anything except the target muscle. So we want to curl up and then a slight forward drift at the end. What we don't want to see is that movement of the shoulders rocking forwards and backwards, because then I'm doing a bicep curl, but all those muscles on my shoulder blade are actually contributing to create momentum, making it a lot easier to do compared to a proper correct technique bicep curl. So how do we hit the short head to get those wider biceps? Well, do the opposite of the long head. So we don't want to start in a neutral grip. We want to have it nice and flat and get the elbow out in front of the body. Having the elbow out in front of the body takes the stretch off of both the short head and the long head. However, it takes the stretch off of the long head a lot more than the short head. So therefore, the short head is under more tension and going to do most of the work. Now, there are tons of options you can do with this. You can do your preacher curl, or you can turn around. From there, you can lie down and do your spider curls. Same thing, you can turn the bench at a much lower angle and do your spider curls. The point is, as long as your elbow is in front of your body, the short head will be working a lot harder. Some of my favorite variations, the bodyweight bicep curl, or even better still, the lat pull down bicep curl. Now, all you do there, instead of going into a chin up and pulling down with the back, you're compressing the elbow, the exact opposite of what you'd want to do if you want to hit your back. Next up, guys, we've got the triceps. Now here we've got the long head, which differs from the other two heads. The long head attaches above the shoulder joint, which means we can manipulate it by utilizing the shoulder position. Studies, however, show that long head strength is better at neutral and gets weaker all the way up through to 180 degrees. I don't agree with these studies. I think they're wrong, and I'm pretty sure everyone else agrees with me here. When we're at the top of the movement, we're also hitting the long head, because the long head's at the biggest stretch, therefore under the most tension. And when we're in this position, the long head's in its shortest position, therefore under the most contraction. So it is the dominant muscle in both those movements. So exercises we can hit the long head really well are just your standing cable curls with your elbows slightly back, trying to keep them nice and still. You can use a bar, you can use a rope. You can do it single hand, however you want. Standing cable push down, I think I said cable curl, that's just my brain. Then if we go over to the bench, one of my all-time favorite puts a great stretch on the long head, and that is the skull crusher, or what I like to do is behind the head crusher. A, it saves your skull, and B, if you come up to here, at the top there's no tension, and Jeff Cavalier's to thank for this one, he's probably the first to mention it. Take the elbows back a bit so you're getting them further overhead, and you've got more tension on in the finish position, and you've got some tension at the start, so you're keeping tension throughout the range of movement. Another variant is basically a standing version of that exact exercise, where you take the cable, you drop it down, you do your little dance to get under it, and now the elbows are again right up high, and you can extend, or again, there's not much tension right at the top, but there's a great strength curve with resistance in the stretch position. So complete opposite to the dumbbell skull crusher. Therefore, do both. Now, because the long head makes up 2/3 of the actual size of the triceps, and the triceps make up 2/3 of the size of the arm, so if you want to fill out the shirt sleeves, train the long head of the triceps, right? I've been doing that a lot. I pretty much only train the long head, and that is my downfall. I've got underdeveloped lateral and medial heads. So the way in which I'm going to go about solving this is exactly the opposite of how we hit the long head. So if we're right up there for the long head and we're up there for the long head, how do we hit the other two, the medial and lateral head? We do our tricep work at around 90 degrees or anywhere in between that, trying not to have the stretch on the long head or the full contraction. Therefore, the others have to help. Now, my favorite variants for this and actually prefer doing it with a bar, but we've got dumbbells, is the close grip bench press. Now, as I said in my bench press video, if you keep your forearms at 90 degrees to the ground, we're not going to get much triceps. But if we come down, compressing the forearms and then push up, so we're getting that straightening of the arm, we get a really good tricep contraction. If you want to make that even harder, you'll have to drop the weight. Trust me, we've got our modified French press where we go down, tap the dumbbells, and then pushing up. So we tap the top of the shoulder and then we go up, and that is pretty much tricep exclusive. And you can almost feel it, or at least I think I can, the medial and lateral head working a bit harder. Now, if you want to save some time and you want to do your long head work and then go straight into your medial and lateral head, go onto the cable, finish your long head set, that's done and dusted, have a bit of a breather, and then take a few steps back. So from there, let your elbows come forward and push down. And there we're getting our contraction mid-range, very similar to that. It's just the hardest portion on the French press is the stretch position. The hardest portion on the cable push down with your arms right in front, the stretch is really easy. The hardest is the lockout, because as you can see, there's your 90-degree mark from the cable. So again, utilize both. They're both really good exercises, and they'll develop that inside bit, take away those bingo wings, and the lateral head to create that horseshoe that I wish I had. So that's how we get the triceps we want into the movement. What muscles do we need to worry about for this? So the shoulder blade again, but more importantly, the one I see everyone mess up with this is the lats. So the way in which we keep the lats out, and the shoulder blade for that matter, keep your elbows still. Do not let them move. What you see people doing in the gym is filling up that full stack, going out in front, and instead of doing a controlled movement where they're just moving using the triceps, or nice and close, just moving using the triceps, we get a combination of a lat pull down with a tricep extension, and like this, that is more lat movement, creating the momentum, taking the tension off the target muscle. You can use a trick here. If you want to go exceptionally heavy, you can use it as a cheat rep. So you can cheat the rep down with the lats and then control the eccentric, stop, go out, cheat the rep, control the eccentric, and you can do exactly the same with the biceps. You can use a squat movement to cheat the rep up and then control the eccentric. But if you're cheating both, swaying all over the place, using your lats, using your shoulder blades for your triceps and biceps, you're achieving nothing other than ego lifting. And ego lifting with good technique is awesome. Ego lifting using every muscle except the one you're after, what's the point? So what can you guys take from this video? Use all these techniques. Make sure when you're training your biceps, you're getting all three movements involved. You're getting supination, elbow flexion, and shoulder flexion. And you're also doing it within different ranges of shoulder flexion. This will cover all bases. If you just had to do standing curls, will your biceps grow? Yes. Will it be optimum? Possibly not. Yes, they're both working together, but if we optimize, we make it as hard as possible for the muscle to achieve the target, surely we have to stimulate more growth. Same with the triceps, mix it up. Don't be like me where you just focus on the long head because it's the biggest. I regret that now. I'm trying to do more medial and lateral head work because I want that horseshoe, as we all do, because it looks absolutely insane. And it's getting there. We're slowly getting towards that horseshoe mark, but no, it's not quite there yet. It's still a bit underdeveloped, but that's just life. We're all working on something, aren't we? All right, guys, I hope this video gave you some insight into how your arms work and how you can best train them. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that thumbs up button down below. And if you like this sort of content, go make sure you look at all the rest of this series where we cover the chest, we cover the back, and the legs are still to come, which is going to be an epic video. All right, guys, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. If it's your first time, welcome to the channel and well done on making it this far. Please consider smashing that subscribe button if you've viewed a few of my videos. And if not, hopefully one of these days I can earn that subscription from you. Until then, guys, we'll see you in the next one.